Hey guys, welcome back. Part 2 of the EP3 rack slash control arm ball joint sort of deal. So it's the next day. I got the ball joints and control arm bushings pressed in. So right here is the control arm bushings. These were an absolute pain to get out, especially the small one because of the lip that's on there with the original one. I don't know if it's in here, but absolute pain. I ended up bringing it to my dad's work and they pressed it out for me, and definitely got to bring that somewhere to do it. The ball joints you could probably do yourself. They sell a tool or they rent a tool at like AutoZone and stuff, but the control arm bushings, heavily recommend bringing it somewhere because you need a big hydraulic press and a bunch of different socket sizes and stuff to try and make it work. Over here we got the new ball joints pressed in. That was probably the easiest part. The control arms took, I was probably waiting for like 2 hours. Anyways, I'm just putting everything back together now. I'm going to be doing the rack tomorrow because it's getting a little dark here. I'm running out of light. So I just wanted to film something quick showing you guys the progress we've been making on it so far. And these came out really good. Just a little bit of grease left over on that one, but overall, pretty good. Next is going to be putting the ball joint, the hub back on. But I'm thinking, since the electric rack has that big pump on top, you're not able to slide it through the side. So what I'm going to do instead, try and utilize this space here. I might take this and move this, maybe unbolt this so I have even more clearance. And then I might undo, I don't know, I'm going to try and avoid undoing these lines unless I really got to, because I'm going to try and sneak the rack in. So I'm going to unbolt the mounts that are on it, the black mounts on the ends. I'm going to undo those and put those in the car first, and then try and sneak the rack in there. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's not going to be easy for sure. I'm going to have to cut a slit in the harness down there. I'm going to probably do that first because I can see it right now. So maybe while the rack is out, I'll do the harness, because when I put the rack in, you're gonna have to be reaching underneath there. It's gonna be a pain. So I'm gonna probably run the electrical in the car like up through the grommet before I put the rack in. That way the wiring is ready to run, good to go. I don't have to try and fight with the rack afterwards. So I'm gonna pull the wiring through and get it kind of situated where it needs to be. It's just 2 plugs, and then I'm gonna run a power cable to the battery directly, and then I'm going to ground it somewhere on the chassis. I'll just show you guys tomorrow when I go to put the rack in, because the rest is kind of putting it back together. You guys saw me take it apart more or less. So when I go to put the rack in, that's when I'll show you guys the process for that.
The next day.
All right, guys, I'm going to put the rack in the car tonight, hopefully. I know these clips are kind of spaced out. It gets dark at literally 4 o'clock now. So by the time I get home and have time to try and do this, it's already freaking dark. So basically everything's done. I filmed the Brembo install off camera. I filmed it for Instagram vertical, so I'll post like a reel on how to do that, just like a quick thing. Not hard. They bolt right up. You just gotta make sure the pistons are all the way in and bolt it right up, bleed the brakes, put the pins in the brake pads. But now I'm going to be attempting to put the rack in. So I was able to take the old one out through the side, through this hole here, but because the cylinder on the top of that is so tall, you got to put the electric rack in from the top. So I'm waiting for my pops to get home, and we're gonna either have to remove this or this or this. I'm gonna have to figure out a way to try and slide it in there. I don't want to take this engine out, and I don't want to have to undo all these vacuum lines and fuel lines and the harness and all of this to get the rack in. So I'm gonna try and get it in there without taking all this stuff out. We'll see how it goes. But first, I took this little bracket off the end. I'm gonna put that in the car first, just so there's less like length on it and make it easier to put in the car. I might do the same thing with this other bracket. We'll see. I want the rack to be as short as possible so I can try and slide it in there. But as you can see, everything's kind of a mess. I've just been trying to do this when I have free time. Before I put the rack in, I'm going to be sliding the harness through that grommet. I cut a slit in it. I'm gonna be sliding the plugs through the harness so I can get the plugs through there, because when the rack is on top of that harness, it's gonna be a pain to try and pull it through. So I'm waiting to put that in first, and then I'm gonna be throwing the rack in, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. All right, everybody, I have a headlamp on so you can't really see me, but I was able to sneak the wire through the grommet. I ended up just like cutting the top of the grommet so I didn't have to like try and sneak it through. And then afterwards I'm just gonna put like a gasket maker around it, because there's no other way I was sliding that through there. So it looks a little right now, but I'm gonna be pushing it down, and I'm gonna wrap that together with the harness so it will look, you know, finished. And then before I put the rack in over here, you got to grease the inside of this with like a red, let's see, there we go, like a red, like a high heat, high temp, high pressure red grease. So just stuff that with the grease. Grease the crap out of your slider. I'm running a SHG slider, and I'm going to be running Deivi DC5 Creations billet rack riser. So I'm going to put the rack in without putting the riser on, just because I might need the space. But I'm definitely going to put the slider in first, and I'm going to show you guys how that goes. All right, so the best way to do this is the SHG one. You want to just cut a slit right here in the middle. That way you don't have to undo all these clamps. It's just the easiest way to do it. And then you're gonna prop this up and put it in like this with the circle end facing towards you. Whew, I got the rack in. I got it in by myself. Honestly, I didn't think it was gonna go, but I got it. Let me show you guys how I did this. I didn't have to pull anything out really. Let me move this to wide. So I ended up just taking the fuse box. I unbolted it from the spot it bolts into, and then I undid the clip here, and I flipped the fuse box up out of the way, so that cleared some room. And then I moved the harness that plugs into it over here, because this goes to the side. I took the top strut bar off because it bolts in here, goes across. Didn't give me enough room to wiggle the rack in, but I was able to do it. As you can see, I didn't take out any lines. Literally all my coolant lines, my fuel lines, AC lines, everything is still hooked up. I just kind of started with the pump up, and I started from here, and I went down, and I just kind of shimmied it until it was able to barely make it past this harness right here. As you can see, I scraped the harness a little bit, but man, it's in there. I did not think I was going to be able to do it by myself, but I had to take the mounts off the ends. I bolted that side in already with the black mount, so it'll just slide into those two holes, and then the other mount right here is just held on by this here. Took that off, and then I was able to slide it in there. So I'm gonna bolt this back to the rack and then shimmy it on in there. It should be good to go. I just gotta tidy it up a little bit and see how she looks. Then I gotta put in the inner tie rods. Is gonna be a pain in the ass. It always is a pain in the ass, but she's almost in there, boys. She's almost in there. Well, the rack is fully bolted in. The harness right here, just gotta clip into these, but I'm gonna tape all this up before I do that, but it's all bolted in over there. There we go. And then the other side over here, bolted in, and then on the inside here, I'm gonna have to wire all this up at a later point, but power, ground, and then I had these extended. These go to your ECU, And then I gotta find somewhere to stick this because most people put it where the airbox or the airbag module is, but I'm keeping my airbags. So this, I'm gonna have to try and zip tie it somewhere up out of the way. And then all of this has gotta get run. But for now, that'll be good. I'll have to do that when I have more time. But at least the rack is in for now. I just went through this hole here, through the grommet. And I'm just gonna silicone it so it doesn't go anywhere. And then, yeah, we'll be on to the next part. All right, everybody. I know this video is jumping around a lot, but we're moving on to the pump here. It's, like I said, it's been dark, and then when I get home, it's barely bright out, and it's weekend now, and I have time, so it's just been crazy. But let me start moving this, undo this bolt here. That'll free this up. There's gonna be a 10 mil on the side down there. You'll see it. It's like right there. Remove that 10. There's gonna be a little clip right there. You gotta undo that, and then back there is where it comes out. I actually cut it before just to make the old rack easier to remove because I'm not reusing it. So I'm just gonna be unbolting that, pulling that out, and then we're gonna move on to the pump. The pump is not too hard. I just gotta undo the tension on the belt, and then from there, I think it's just this bolt and that bolt right there. I think that's it, and then hopefully it should come out. Yeah, it's freezing cold out. Freezing, nose is running, but we're getting it done, so I'll show you guys when it's out. All right, well, I got the pump off here. I ordered this here. It's missing parts, of course, so do not buy this brand. Junk. It's missing parts. I read a review afterwards, like trying to find what I was missing, and the people just, it's not good. So, but that's pretty much what you're gonna need. You're gonna need like a EP. You can get an OEM, like you can get buy an OEM EP3 bracket, which will sit right here and literally just run an OEM pulley and bracket. I was just trying to find like a cheap option. The what's it called? The hybrid racing is like $250. I'm not paying that. So basically, this is what you're gonna need. It's just gonna bolt here, and it's gonna have a pulley, and then you can still keep your OEM tensioner here. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm gonna order another one and install it, but I'm gonna do it off camera. But it's really simple. The pump, the OEM pump over there, it's literally just these two bolts, and take the tension off. This is like a 14, and you just put pressure and take tension off the belt. Take the pump out. Pretty much good to go. So that's gonna halt my progress on that. But while I'm waiting for a new bracket and a pulley, I'm going to try and get this thing wired today. I gotta pop this wheel off here, and what I'm gonna be doing for power, I'm gonna be running power through the grommet over the fender, and it's gonna come out somewhere around here hopefully, and I'm just gonna connect it to the battery. And then for ground, I'm gonna be grounding it somewhere inside the car. And then I got to figure out how I want to tap into the ECU wiring, because my dad's friend made me a little, I didn't ask him to, but I just told him I needed something soldered, and he went kind of above and made this thing. So in theory, one end would go to one end of the connector, and I don't know why he did it like this. I mean, you'd put like one of these on each end of the wiring that's coming into the ECU, and they would clip here and go out to the harness. But I wanted it soldered. I don't know why he did all that. So I'm gonna try and get the wiring done while I'm waiting for my buddy to tell me if he's got a bracket, because I might just be able to pick one up today local. This is not OEM, but I should have just went with the OEM to begin with. You can literally run, I think it's like 02 to 11 EP or SI. They all have electric steering, and you just need the bracket and the pulley. You get a new pulley from AutoZone if you really want. But while I'm waiting for that, let's move on to the wiring and pop this wheel off, and then try and run some wires. All right, everybody, I got the power wire all ran through. I still gotta find somewhere to ground it, but the power wire I just ran right through this grommet here. I'm gonna probably put some gasket. There's like a goop you can put to make like a gasket, and then it comes up I gotta trim the zip ties, but comes up over, out through here, right here. I mean, there's a cleaner way of doing it. You could go through here and underneath the headlight, but I'm not really concerned about how this engine bay looks, more or less, you know. Just want it to drive good. So that's just how I ran it. You could always run all this underneath here so it's cleaner, but like I said, not a big deal. However you feel like doing it. I'm still trying to find an OEM EP3 idler pulley, and from the dealer, they're like, the bracket with the pulley and the bolts and shit is like $200, so that's not great. And then the belt itself is separate, it's like another 70 bucks. So I'm still trying to decide on what the route I want to go for that, because I don't know, all the aftermarket shit kind of sucks. So I mean, you can get lucky and it might work for you, but now the power wires run. I'm not going to connect it till I got the ground in, and everything else is wired. So now I got to find somewhere to ground this. I put a little end link on it already. I just got to find a good spot underneath here to ground it. Somewhere where it's like a good, like metal on metal contact, and then we'll go from there. So let me find a spot and I'll show you guys where I put it. All right, everybody, we're taking a trip here under the dash. So as you guys can see, we are deep in it right now. It's kind of hard to show you, but so right above your what is this? Your brake pedal, right? Right above your brake pedal, there is a massive ground. See the one that goes up? I just undid that 10mm bolt, and then I ran this wire here, the ground for the electric rack, onto that. So that's where I'm going to ground it. I'm just going to zip tie it off to the side somewhere, so that way it doesn't hit the steering shafts right here, because that would be bad. So probably going to just put this to the side and zip tie it right there, and then I'll be able to run it. Oh God. Oh. Then I'll be able to run that right along the side here. So power is pretty much done. I just got to tuck it up above the pedals somewhere, or I might run this underneath the carpet, but we'll see. Just gonna tuck this somewhere along the line up there, and then the rest of it's pretty simple. The wiring for the ECU I just snuck underneath here, and then the ground I'm gonna put to the side along with this and just kind of tidy it all up. But power and ground are pretty much run. I just gotta zip tie it all out of the way, and then yeah, so now you guys can see where I have the ground. I wanted to keep it somewhere like local in the car, and then the power you got to run obviously through your fender. So let me zip tie this all up, and then I'm going to move to the other side, and I'm going to wire in the pins for the ECU. All right, guys, I got everything tidied up underneath the dash. Well, it's a pain. You got to lay on your back and stick your head underneath there and try and run the wires, zip tie them, make sure everything's taped up beforehand so you don't taping it after like an idiot like me. But basically I'm going to show you how I have everything run. I might change it depending if my foot hits the wiring right there. So the majority of your harness is going to come through behind here. I just take that out with the bolt, run the harness, right? I went up, I drilled a hole in this plastic. This is just plastic. So I drilled another hole so I could zip tie it to that, and then I zip tied it here, again here, and then I put the box right above the steering column, and I zip tied it on the side twice, so that way the wires get pulled to the side, that way they don't droop and hit your steering column. So the box I just shoved as far up there as I could, and I zip tied it to another, that one of those yellow things, so it would stay up there. And then the rest of the wiring, the ECU wires go underneath there. This is power and a ground. Right here is ground. I ran them up following this harness. I ran it right along the top of here. As you can see, I drilled a little hole so I could zip tie it, power over, and then through the grommet up there. And then for ground, I just used the, where is it? that chassis ground right there. And the ground, I just ran it sideways, zip tied it again to the side, down, across. Sorry if it's upside down, this is not easy to film. But yeah, so power came through there, runs over the top of this to the side. And then I just zip tied the box way up top. Make sure your wires don't hit the column. Zip tie it to the side. I might have to move this behind here if possible so my foot doesn't hit it, but we'll see. I tried to do the best I could with it, and then the carpet should cover it. So I just got to put this little nut back on right here, just like that, and then tighten that up quick. And then once that's tight, then shouldn't have any problems getting the carpet to cover the wiring. All right, that's what it looks like now that the carpet is back. Can't even see any of the wiring, literally just this one spot right here. I might throw a zip tie on there, but it literally, you can't see any of it. I gotta put this cover back on, but I just have it off so you guys can see how it is. But that's how everything is gonna sit, pretty much all done in here. Wow, that was a pain. Zip tying things under the dash with one hand is a skill that I don't want anybody else to have to learn. It sucks. So now I'm gonna move on to the ECU side. I gotta get a pin out for each pin on the ECU, because there's 3 pins you gotta tap into, and I gotta look and double check which ones they are, and then that should take quick. I don't have any solder with me right now, so I'm just gonna do the split and twist, and then when I solder it, I can do that, but I'll show you guys how that goes, and then should be good to go. I just gotta adjust the toe on the steering rack and hook the power up because I didn't connect it to the terminal, and then yeah, hopefully we can finally drive this car. It's been down for like at least a week and a half, and I gotta wait for a pulley kit too, because that should be here tomorrow. I went with the OEM EP3 idler mount pulley and serpentine belt, just because the aftermarket ones I don't want to deal with. OEM's always great. It's a little expensive, but you gotta do what you gotta do. So now that that's all tidied up, I'm gonna go to the other side and do the wiring. All right, guys, so I'm gonna get started on this ECU wiring. Definitely look up a pinout online for your car. I can try and post a picture in the video here so you guys can have it, but basically 02 and 04, gotta look up I looked at a K-Pro diagram. Basically, you need to make sure what electric rack version you have, the colors, and then you have to go to the pinout for your engine harness plugging into your ECU, and then you got to tap into there. So I'll post some pictures here. I actually looked at D.E. Mosey video on YouTube. He does RSX content, so he has a really great video on the wiring stuff already for 05, 06 to 02, 04. So I'll link his video in the bio. I used his video kind of for some help on this. So basically what you're going to do right in here, see this green and white wire? It's kind of hard to tell, but I have it. This is green and white. So on the pinout, right, so you look at the pinout, and I have it written down right here. So blue and white goes to VSS, A18, white, green, solid blue. So these colors here, these are coming off of the harness from the steering rack, and then the pins here, E plug, A plug. So right here, this would be A plug, and then the big one over there is E plug. The diagram online, for some reason, like, it flips them around, so just make sure you're looking at the right plug on the diagram, and just when you say you gotta splice into A18, which is right here, just look at the color, make sure the color matches what the pinout says, and then look at the ones next to it. So say A18, this is white green, right? Make sure that on the pinout it says the one next to it is what is that? Green red. Green with a red stripe. So make sure that it says the same thing for the one next to it, so you know for sure that you have the right pin. So basically, now that this is like this, all I did was here, let me see if it'll zoom a little bit. Come on, focus. So I just stripped the this stuff here where is it? I just stripped the sleeve using like a box cutter knife. Be very careful that you do not rip this wiring in half. So basically what you're gonna wanna do is open up, let me see if I can do it with one hand. Probably not, 1 second. All right, so basically what you're gonna wanna do is open the middle of this, just like this, and then you're gonna take, so right here I have blue, white, goes to A18, white, green, which is this. You're gonna take, I already have them labeled because I extended them. So blue, blue, white, and then that one's yellow. So blue, white would be this one coming off of the harness. I just extended them all so I wouldn't have to deal with not having enough wire. So blue, white, I'm gonna just strip this back and I'm gonna stick it in the middle of this loop and wrap it and then solder it. So let me show you how that looks. All right, now that this is stripped back here, so you guys can see, I just took the jacket off of it and just strip it back with like a razor blade. What you're gonna do is you're gonna stick this in between the hole here like that, and then you're gonna wanna twist it and wrap it around it and wrap it together. I'll show you how that looks. All right, now that's how it's gonna look when you guys are all done. It's not the cleanest one that I've done, but basically you're gonna just wrap it around there as much as you can, and then you're gonna wanna solder it together, and then it'll be pretty much good to go right there. Remind you, it is very thin wire, so be careful with what you're doing. So right there, that's how it's gonna go. That's for this one pin, and now the other two are on the other connector here. So let me look at the diagram and I'll do those two. And the reminder, you gotta solder this when you're done. Don't just leave it like that. All right, now for the last two here, it's gonna be this blue wire right here and this black and yellow right here. So that is solid blue goes to E26 on the pinout, and then yellow goes to ignition on the E pin, black and yellow, which is right here next to this orange one. This is 0204, and then blue is right in the middle next to this blue and red, and then a brown. So the solid blue and the black and yellow. So solid blue is going to be to solid blue on this here, which would be this one, blue. And then yellow here is going to go to yellow and then black. All right, guys, so this is basically how it looks now. It's a little tight in here. I'm gonna try and throw some tape on there temporarily till I solder it, but it's pretty much how it's gonna go. Twist them around like that, put some solder on there and solder it, and then tape it. I recommend opening up the loom a bit so you can have some play, and be very careful when you do that so you don't break any wires. But that's pretty much how the wiring is gonna go for that. Everything else is hooked up. As you can see, it is freaking dark out now. So hopefully I get the idler pulley tensioner thing done tomorrow, and then I can go for a test drive and we'll see how this thing works. I might make a separate video for that. We'll see. Let me just finish this wiring up. Hey guys, that's gonna wrap it up for the install on the EP3 rack. I'm gonna do another video tomorrow or the next day on going to get it aligned, driving it, see how it is. But everything's bolted in, it's all wired correctly, everything's run. It's pretty much good to go. I just gotta adjust the toe so I can actually drive it to the alignment rack. And then depending if the steering wheel is off center or not, your alignment place should take care of that for you, but sometimes they might not. So you just got to undo that joint at the bottom I showed you before. Try to realign the steering wheel as close as you can, and then they'll fix your alignment based off that. But nothing like, too crazy. That's definitely a pain. The wiring is probably the hardest. Well, not the hardest part. Getting the old rack out was a pain, but doing the the wiring under the dash really sucks. That's not fun at all. So good luck when it comes to that. I recommend putting the tie rods in at the end like I did, and then doing that last. When you do the tie rods, here's a special tool for you. I'll show you now. It's a 29 It's what's it called? Like a crow's foot wrench. That will fit on your tie rod end in the center, and then just put a little extension on it, and you can tighten your tie rods on the car nice and easy without having to use an adjustable. Put a link to that in the bio or the description as well. My boy Sonic DC5 showed me that. But that's going to wrap it up. I hope you guys are enjoying the EP3 kind of saga. I don't know how many episodes or how many videos I'm going to make on this. It might be like 1 or 2 or 3. I haven't edited anything yet. I'm just filming as I go. But please like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one when we actually drive this thing. Peace.
Yo